Your man X on the Breakfast Club trying to make me look like trying to make me seem like a sucker for love type of dude, and ain't nothing like that.
Fredro Starr. I got one on Baby Mo's. Right, so I land in Cali. I see him in the club. You know, he a little loud. Yo, son, what up, baby? Yo, he that nigga. Yo, shorty. Yo, stuff, son. You got that? That's you. So, yo, now, son, I'm saying that's all you, baby.
Fredro Starr thought he'd seen wild energy before until he met DMX.
DMX was dangerous, man. Like, not dangerous, but he's like, when you around him, he's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I mean?
What started as brotherhood on tour slowly turned into a quiet war for respect, dominance, and reputation. Show after show, cypher after cypher, the tension built like pressure in a boiler until DMX decided to settle it the only way he knew how: raw, loud, and in public.
And let him know ain't nothing sweet over here. And that's it, man. Ain't nothing to talk about, ain't no beef. X know me, you know how to get at me.
But this wasn't just rap beef. Behind the scenes, DMX was already moving through real danger in the streets. So when Fredro tried to test him, X didn't bark back. He bit.
You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, it's going front. Oh, son, it's nothing. I mean, yo, go ahead, baby. It's nothing. You know, she ain't nothing.
Meanwhile, he fall in love with you.
So you too?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Let's rewind this. When DMX first linked up with Onyx, it wasn't through fancy label meetings or music execs. It was straight through the grind, through the streets. It was the mid-90s, and every rapper in New York was out to prove who had the loudest roar. Onyx already had the hardcore image locked down. Bald heads, black Timbs, no smiles, just scowls. Their studio sessions were sacred. No outsiders allowed, no jokes, no games. Fredro once said, you couldn't just walk into an Onyx session. You had to be solid.
And you had to be thorough to come in the studio tape.
So who
it was just locked down
who made
like
it
that.
in the studio? Who got it in?
Nobody.
It was just
at that point, nobody.
So when a hungry DMX from Yonkers walked into that Jersey basement studio in '95, nobody expected much. But once he grabbed the mic, the whole room froze. Fredro never forgot that moment. DMX had that same cold, raw intensity that Onyx built their identity on.
He could have been a missing Onyx member.
Guys.
He could have been a missing.
Somebody told Fredro the L shit. What they said?
They said DMX is Onyx all together.
Sticky Fingaz would even joke later that DMX could have been the fifth Onyx member. His growl, his rage, his movement in the booth, it all matched perfectly. It wasn't imitation, it was recognition. They were built from the same raw material, carved out of the same chaos. But that kind of similarity never makes friendship easy. It breeds rivalry. By the time they officially linked up in 1998 for Shut 'Em Down, both sides had turned into straight beasts. Onyx were already hardened veterans from that early 90s Def Jam grind, while DMX had just exploded as the new alpha, hot off It's Dark and Hell is Hot, running on nothing but pure adrenaline. When they reunited in that studio, there wasn't no small talk, just beats, smoke, and pure tension in the air. Fredro admitted later he knew exactly what kind of record they were making. Not a friendly collab, but a lyrical brawl. Every verse sounded like it was thrown with bad intentions. And when Shut 'Em Down finally dropped, the energy was insane. Two powerful styles that should have clashed ended up feeding off each other instead. Pure, unfiltered aggression that fans still feel to this day. That same wild chemistry got even heavier on the Survival of the Illest tour. You could see it, not hate, but that dangerous kind of mutual respect between two men who mirrored each other too closely. Fredro once said, when you're around X, you never knew what was going to happen. And he wasn't exaggerating. One minute DMX would be backstage praying with the crew, and the next, he'd be outside revving the tour bus engine like he was about to drive it straight through the venue. People stayed alert, not out of fear, but because X carried that spark, that wild energy that could flip the whole vibe in seconds.
Every stage, DMX driving tour buses.
How you gonna say
Rest in
driving
peace
the
to X.
tour bus?
Driving the tour bus.
For all that wild energy, there was a real bond between them. Fredro and DMX weren't just loud personalities. They were born fighters who led with heart before logic ever kicked in. On tour, they'd hit push-ups right there in hotel lobbies, clown each other nonstop, and turn every moment into a competition. But it wasn't fake. It was real respect, built out of shared chaos and raw ambition. When that tour finally wrapped up, the energy didn't fade. It just lingered in the air. They weren't best friends, but they were brothers in spirit, bound by that same instinct to dominate every single room they walked into. Fans picked up on it too. Anytime they performed Shut 'Em Down live, the crowd could feel it. That electric tension, like something wild, could pop off at any second. Behind the scenes though, both camps played by the same unspoken code of that hardcore rap world. Loyalty, authenticity, survival. DMX always showed Onyx love, even when the industry tried to stir the pot and pit them against each other. For a while, it actually worked. They stayed solid publicly, but deep down, that same fire that made them connect was also what made the bond fragile. Because with men like that, men who built their entire image on dominance and pride, friendship could never stay still for long. One wrong word, one misunderstood move, and that brotherhood could flip into rivalry overnight. You could trace the fallout between DMX and Fredro Starr to a diss track or a radio moment, but truthfully, that spark started way earlier, almost 10 years before the public ever saw smoke, long before the 2012 blow-up. There was one moment that quietly shattered the trust between two men who once called each other brothers.
Fredro Starr. I got one on baby most. Right, so I land in Cali. I see him in the club. You know, he a little loud. Yo, son, what up, baby? Yo, he that nigga. Yo, good man. Yo, who shorty? Yo, stuff it, son. You got that? That's you. Yo, dude. Nah, son, I'm saying that's all you, baby.
He later went on The Breakfast Club a decade later and retold the story as if it were a comedy sketch.
It went down around 2002, back when DMX was deep into his Hollywood run, and Fredro was still one of his closest allies in the game. What started off as a chill night out turned into the first real crack in what had once looked unbreakable. Fredro showed up to that movie premiere with a woman, someone he later described as a shorty, just another groupie tagging along for the night.
And she spoke very little English. She wasn't even a citizen. But, you know, thanks to the baby, now she's a citizen.
Yeah, good for you.
Yeah. God bless
Helping
America.
women all over the world.
God bless America. Yeah, but, yeah.
In his own words, he even gave X the green light, told him, "That's you, son." In street talk, that's a pass, a sign of respect, a friendly gesture. But with DMX, things never stayed that simple. Years later, X went on The Breakfast Club and retold the story like it was a comedy skit. He painted Fredro as the jealous friend who caught feelings, claiming Fredro kept blowing up the woman's phone all night asking if she was still with him. Then X added another wild twist, saying the woman ended up pregnant. According to X's version, she barely spoke English, wasn't a citizen, and supposedly got her papers because of the baby. It was messy, disrespectful, and way too public, a story that never should have seen daylight. For Fredro, hearing it live on air wasn't just humiliating, it was betrayal on blast. In his own version, he said, "Everybody laughing, everybody thinks it's a joke, but when my name came up, I didn't take it as a joke." That moment turned a private misunderstanding into a public wound, and there was no coming back from that. To really understand why this moment cut so deep, you gotta look at DMX's history. He had a habit of turning private situations into full-blown public drama. A few years earlier, he pulled something similar with Monique Wayne, a woman who sued him for paternity back in 2004. To fight that case, DMX ran straight to the media and claimed she had taken advantage of him while he was asleep in a hotel room. Then he took it even further, mocking her looks and saying she wasn't even attractive enough for him to remember being with her. It was cold, reckless, and it backfired badly. Wayne clapped back with a defamation lawsuit and won a $1.5 million judgment after DMX didn't even show up in court.
When DMX came out, everyone said, man, he's a copy version of Onyx.
That ruling made one thing clear. X's habit of turning pain into performance wasn't just emotional chaos, it was costing him money. By 2012, he was still moving with that same impulsive energy. His Breakfast Club appearance wasn't planned or strategic, it was straight instinct. He thought he was just telling a crazy story for laughs, but in reality, he reopened a wound that had never healed. Fredro had kept quiet for years, never brought it up in interviews, never chased clout off it. But when DMX said his name live on national radio, laughing it off like it was nothing, that crossed the one line both men respected: loyalty. And underneath that personal tension, something deeper had been brewing for years, an artistic rivalry that fans rarely noticed. Fredro and Sticky Fingers had hinted before, in subtle ways, that DMX's signature, barking, growling delivery wasn't completely original. They never said it loud, but that quiet suggestion was enough to keep a little fire burning in the background.
Your man X on the Breakfast Club trying to make me look like trying to make me seem like a sucker for love type of dude, and ain't nothing like that, you know what I'm saying?
Onyx always felt they'd been doing that wild, aggressive sound long before DMX hit the scene. Sticky Fingers even went online and stirred the pot, posting, "Was DMX a copycat or a big dog?" On the surface, it sounded like a playful question, but in hip-hop, that kind of talk cuts deep.
X know me, you know how to get at me, call me, man. That's all you gotta do. But ain't no games over here, man.
Because accusing someone of jacking a style is like calling them fake. And in this culture, authenticity is everything. That's the real currency rappers live and die by. And for DMX, authenticity wasn't part of his act. It was his act. Every growl, every bark, every verse that came out of him was real emotion, pain, and faith mixed together. So when people started hinting that he might have copied somebody's sound, that hit him in the soul. To DMX, that was like erasing his identity, and then he never let that slide.
No written nothing. No Blackberries, no iPhones, none of that. We don't do that over here. So check this out.
So when the Breakfast Club story and those Onyx comments started floating around at the same time, things got serious. It wasn't gossip anymore. It was war on two fronts, personal and creative. Fredro felt DMX had disrespected his name, and DMX felt Onyx had disrespected his legacy.
If he ever tried again, he'd be in of the fire pen.
Two men who mirrored each other's energy perfectly were now clashing over who really owned it first. Wild irony, right? Fredro's response at first was calm but sharp. In one interview, he broke it down. "Yo, he tried to make me look like a sucker for love type of dude. That's not me. He using my name to catch laughs, and it ain't funny." Fredro even admitted the basics. Yes, there was a woman. Yes, it was casual. But what really angered him was the disrespect. In their world, there was an unspoken code. Don't ever drag another man's name into your mess, especially not on national radio. Fredro put it simply, he know me. He know how to reach me. You don't go on no radio show and talk like that. That was more than a clapback. It was a warning wrapped in disappointment. For most people, DMX's words were just another wild viral moment. Classic, unpredictable X. But for Fredro Starr, that was a line crossed, and he wasn't letting it slide. So just days after DMX's Breakfast Club interview, Fredro showed up online. No entourage, no hype, no fancy setup. Just him, standing in front of a mic in a hoodie, staring straight into the camera for his Firestar 16 Bars web series. And the second he opened his mouth, everyone knew who he was aiming at. His tone was calm, but his message was ice cold. "Yo, it's your boy Fredro Starr," he said. "We going off the top this week. No Blackberries, no iPhones, straight raw." Then that gritty New York drum pattern dropped, simple but heavy, and the fire came with it. Fredro didn't scream, didn't name drop, didn't need to. He let the bars speak for him. It wasn't about violence, it was about principle. In their world, that kind of thing mattered more than anything. You don't mention another man's name, his woman, or his pride. Period.
Where are we going for the real one?
Girl, anywhere you want.
That freestyle was sharp enough to feel like a warning on wax. Not a diss for clout, but a coded message. Even in a genre built on aggression and ego, this one hit different. It felt too real. Fredro later explained, "It wasn't beef. I was just letting him know, don't play with my name." But to outsiders watching it unfold, it looked like a full-on declaration of war. DMX, though, he didn't flinch. No diss track, no freestyle, no studio response. Instead, he fired back in the most unexpected way, through TMZ of all places. A street legend answering from Hollywood. That alone was shocking. But what made it legendary was how cold he was about it. When reporters asked him about Fredro's freestyle, the so-called death threats, and all that tough talk, X barely even blinked. His silence said more than any verse could, like he'd already moved past it before the world even caught up. DMX looked straight into the camera, cracked a smile, and dropped it cold. I ain't worried about him. He's a midget. He can't even reach my knee. The whole vibe shifted instantly. All that talk about the firing pin and danger just evaporated. DMX flipped the energy with one line, turning a supposed street threat into straight-up comedy. But it wasn't really about height. It was about status.
DMX had Fat Joe so angry, according to these documents, that he wanted to see them unalive, and he actually put some effort into this happening.
What X was saying underneath it all was clear. You're not my equal. You're not even close. Then came the knockout punch, the line that buried Fredro's whole tough guy image. DMX leaned forward and said it with venom. All he is a sitcom Moshe gangster. He should stick to being a reality gangster, cause that's all he's good for. It was cold, disrespectful, and absolutely perfect for that moment. Every hip-hop head knew exactly what he meant.
They said, this guy just kidnapped DMX too. This guy kidnapped people. You were a scary guy. I said, I'm figuring it out. They said, you call this number at any time. We'll come pick you up at the parking.
See, Fredro wasn't just some street rapper. He was an actor too. He had credits in Clockers, Sunset Park, even The Wire. But what the world remembered most was his role as Q, Brandy's boyfriend on the 90s sitcom Moesha, the nice guy, the teen heartthrob, the one moms actually liked. DMX took that clean, polished image and flipped it into a weapon. He turned Moesha gangster into the ultimate insult, like saying, you tough on TV, not in real life. From that moment, every bar, every freestyle Fredro had dropped started sounding staged, like leftover lines from a canceled show. And that's why the jab hit so hard. It came from truth. In hip-hop, truth cuts deeper than any diss track, and DMX had hit a nerve. Commentators picked it up right away. One host said that nickname, Moshe Gangster, was gonna stick, and they were right. The same streets that once saw Onyx as pit bulls and black Tims now saw Fredro as a sitcom star pretending to be hard. DMX didn't need to threaten him back, didn't need to yell, didn't need a verse. He just laughed him right out of the conversation. It was pure psychological warfare. Fredro had tried to use aggression as his weapon, but DMX fought back with embarrassment. And that's what made X so dangerous. Not just his bark, but the way he could crush a man's pride with a single sentence. He didn't have to yell or flex. He'd just say something slick, and suddenly you look small next to him. But what made that calm confidence even more powerful was the fact that DMX's world was filled with real danger. Not movie scenes or rap metaphors. The people around him weren't pretending. These were men who actually lived that life. The kind of energy Fredro only talked about. X never bragged about it, but the threat around him was constant. Around the same time that his feud with Fredro was buzzing online, real-life heat was following him everywhere. One story later pulled from court documents claimed that Fat Joe, another New York heavyweight, had supposedly sent his crew to confront DMX after a heated exchange in Miami. The alleged command was cold. If he acts up, take the hammer. Meaning if DMX resisted, they were ready to shoot. That assault never went down, only because DMX didn't step outside that night. That one choice might have saved his life, but that wasn't even the only time his name hovered over real chaos. Years later, Fat Joe himself told a wild story about being overseas with X in Angola, under the watch of a local warlord named Ruo. This dude's reputation was so terrifying that even hotel workers wouldn't look him in the eye. And there was DMX, halfway across the world, already living a stormy life back home, now stuck in what felt like a real hostage situation, surrounded by men tied to actual violence. It showed just how wild his life had become. Even his stories sounded like action movies that never stopped rolling. That was the kind of world DMX lived in, where gun talk wasn't entertainment. It was everyday noise, violence, lawsuits, danger. It was all just part of his background.
DMX was dangerous, man. Like, not dangerous, but he's like, when you around him, he's like, you don't know what's gonna happen. You know what I'm saying?
So when Fredro Starr jumped online rapping about firing pens and friends crying at funerals, DMX didn't even blink compared to what he'd really seen, shootings, courtrooms, and near-death chaos. A YouTube freestyle wasn't a threat, it was a nuisance. So what did X do? He laughed. He called him a midget, threw out the Moesha gangster line, and walked away like it was nothing. Across old forums, hip-hop blogs, and early YouTube comment sections, fans went crazy debating who won. Some said Fredro brought back that raw 90s Onyx energy, that pure, unfiltered aggression, but others said DMX destroyed him with one sentence. Sitcom, Moesha, gangster. That line became a meme before memes even had names. Meanwhile, Fredro was doing interviews looking furious, trying to explain himself. But once you become the joke, there's no clean comeback. The story spread fast. XXL, The Source, Hip Hop DX, they all covered it. None of them took it too seriously though. The tone was the same everywhere. DMX wasn't beefing, he was shrugging. One journalist nailed it perfectly. Fredro's dissing for clout.
He came back with a blunt rolled up. And as I'm counting the money, he lights the blunt. And I said, I was impressed. I don't really smoke, nigga. Got it. And he passed the blunt around. And, wow.
DMX is living through court cases, and that right there was the truth. Fredro's anger lived online, but DMX's chaos was real life. He wasn't just battling rappers, he was battling the system, addiction, and his own demons. When fans really stepped back and looked closer, they saw it plain as day. Fredro was acting out the kind of life that DMX was barely surviving. That's why X's silence cut so deep. It wasn't arrogance, it was exhaustion. He didn't ignore Fredro because he was scared or above it. He ignored him because he had bigger fights to face. When your reality is already harder than most people's lyrics, a diss track just sounds like background noise. Eventually, Onyx tried to cool the whole situation down. In later interviews, both Sticky Fingaz and Fredro called DMX family. They said he was unpredictable, wild with energy, but always real. Sticky even told stories from those old Def Jam tours, how they all shared the same buses, same hotels, sometimes even the same rooms just to save money.
The Hard Knock Life tour, then the Rough Rider tour. But that one right there, that's the one where I was like, what the fuck is this tour? Like, I want to go to one of these shows.
He said the label sold it to fans like a family for marketing, but behind the scenes, it actually was one, full of arguments, competition, and fights, but built on real love underneath it all. Still, for a while, Fredro couldn't back down publicly. He had said too much on camera, and pride wouldn't let him just walk it back. But if you listen closely to his later interviews, you could hear it. The tone was changing, the heat had cooled, the anger had softened. It wasn't hate anymore, it was pride mixed with respect. Fredro eventually said it wasn't beef, it was something I had to check out of respect. We grown men, it's all love. That was January 2014, more than a year after everything blew up. And just like that, the hatchet was buried. Meanwhile, DMX never said Fredro's name again. Not once, not in a verse, not in an interview, not even in passing. It was the ultimate silent move.
I just feel as though I just lost my brother, you know what I'm saying? So now I'm in this industry right here. And this is a nasty industry, so now I just feel as though I'm just in here by myself.
The kind that said more than words ever could. It was like, in DMX's world, that whole feud had never even existed. And that silence, it became part of his legend. Even years later, when Onyx members looked back on that Def Jam family era, you could hear a mix of nostalgia and admiration in their voices. They never downplayed what X brought to the table. And despite everything that went down, Fredro still summed it up best. DMX was dangerous, not in a bad way, just unpredictable. You never knew what he was going to do next. That unpredictability, that raw chaos, was what made DMX different from everyone else. You couldn't play chess with a man who didn't even follow the same rules. Fredro tried to go bar for bar to match X in energy, but DMX flipped the whole game by simply walking away. And somehow, that silence made him look even stronger. By the time the story faded out, Fredro had moved on. Onyx was back dropping music, and DMX's fights had turned inward. Addiction, bankruptcy, probation violations. His struggles were all out in the open. He didn't just rap about pain, he lived it every single day. His life wasn't an act, it was survival on display. Looking back, the irony hits hard. DMX wasn't clowning Fredro out of spite. He was exposing the gap between image and experience, between a man performing danger and a man surviving it. Fredro's world revolved around Hollywood sitcom sets and tour lights, while DMX's world was filled with courtrooms, rehab centers, and the constant fight to stay alive. That same week, people were laughing at the Moesha gangster joke. DMX was getting hit with court orders, paying off millions in damages to Monique Wayne, owing nearly $700,000 to the IRS, and still wrestling with an addiction that started when someone laced his first blunt at just 14 years old. So when folks started calling him a reality gangster, it wasn't an insult, it was the truth. His pain wasn't scripted, his struggle wasn't staged, it was all real. The public saw that difference clearly. That's why, when Fredro eventually said there was no beef, people respected it. Both men had spoken their piece, but only one of them carried silence that meant something deeper. DMX's quiet wasn't weakness. It was the sound of a man who'd already fought every battle life could throw at him. DMX never needed a closing statement. His life had already spoken for him. Years after the tension faded, Fredro started sitting down for interviews, reflecting on those old moments with a whole new tone. You could hear it, the weight in his voice wasn't bitterness anymore, it was gratitude. He'd finally made peace with it all. Fredro talked about those wild days in the late 90s when Onyx had moved out to Jersey but spent so much time in Harlem that people thought they were locals. One day, they heard DMX was up the street filming the Rough Riders Anthem video, and without a second thought, they pulled up, hopped out the Jeep, and joined the madness. DMX welcomed them with open arms, tossed them Rough Riders shirts, and just like that, Onyx were on top of the truck, part of one of the most iconic music videos of the era. Fredro smiled when he told that story. That day wasn't about business or competition. It was about hip-hop. Pure, spontaneous, unfiltered energy. We was just showing love, he said, and DMX gave it right back. After that, Fredro and DMX stayed around each other often. Real connection, no cameras needed. And when you look back now, it all makes sense. DMX wasn't just another rapper in that era. He was a force of nature, the kind of presence that could shift a whole room before he even spoke. Sticky Fingers once said, when DMX showed up, the air changed, thicker, heavier, alive. He didn't need security, didn't roll with 10 dudes. He just pulled up solo, with his dog beside him, real as ever. Fredro remembered the same thing. DMX would show up to video sets alone, no driver, no hype, no entourage, and he'd stay all day, patient, humble, focused. That said more about who he was than any verse ever could. So when DMX passed away in April 2021, that loss hit the culture hard, deeper than a headline, deeper than a story. It felt like the end of an era, because for so many, X wasn't just an artist. He was the heartbeat of what hip-hop used to feel like, raw, spiritual, and painfully real. He was only 50, gone too soon. A heart attack tied to years of pain and addiction finally silenced one of hip-hop's realest voices. The whole world felt it, not just fans, but peers, rivals, even those who once stood across from him in the ring. The energy around his passing was powerful, raw emotion everywhere you looked. Among all the tributes, one stood out, Fredro Starr's song R.I.P. DMX. It wasn't flashy or defensive, it was pure love. Fredro called X special, a man whose pain and spiritual fire ran deeper than anyone else's. And when Fredro speaks about X now, you can hear it. The laughter fades, and what's left is pure respect. DMX didn't just dominate rap, he lived every bar, every struggle, every prayer he ever spit. Love is love, Fredro said in that last interview, his tone sounding more like a eulogy than a quote. This whole hip-hop thing, it's a movie. And X, man, he was one of the realest characters in it. By the end, all the beef and rivalry didn't matter anymore. What stayed was the legacy, the music, the spirit, and the truth they both stood for. Two warriors from the same era who fought the same battles and finally recognized each other for what they were, reflections of the same fight. If you felt this story, do your part. Subscribe to Dripzine, like, share, drop a comment, and click hype to push this video up. Let's keep honoring real ones like DMX, because legends like him never die, they just echo forever through the culture.